So I landed on all the talks I wrote in the last week. I landed on speaking on matters of the heart. Matters of the heart. We've heard that saying, home is where the heart is. But I've always felt like it's equally true that the heart is where home is. The heart is where home is. The poet Rumi once said, your heart knows the way, run in that direction. Your heart knows the way, run in that direction, jog in that direction. And Hafiz said that an awake heart is like the sky that pours light. An awake heart is like a sky that pours light. I love that. We feel at home when love is present, don't we? We feel at home when love is present, when it's flowing in and around us and through us. We feel safe. It feels like the sky is pouring light into our being. And so, the heart, this very core of our being, this place of experiencing love is our true home. This is where we feel most at home. Ramana Maharshi spoke of the heart as the seat of consciousness. He said that it's the very core of one's being, the center, without which there is nothing whatever. It's interesting how countries, when they talk about the center of the country, they call it the heartland, right? The heartland. It's the most important part of the country, the center. And spiritually speaking, of course, we're not talking about the organ of the heart, but rather our core sense of self, our core sense of self. Do you notice when you're pointing to yourself, you do this? I know I do this a lot. Like when I'm referring to myself, my hand is here. It's not here, right? When I'm referring to myself, it's not here. It's here. I put my hand here. And it's when we're touched, we put our hands here, right? When we're touched, it's like, I'm feeling myself deeply. Our hand is here. I have a dear friend that I've worked with in past many, many years that I recently got back in touch with, Swami Beyondananda. Have any of you met him? Steve Berman. I met him at Brighton Bush, I think in 92 or something. And he's funny. He has he's like a cosmic Swami, cosmic comedian in a way. And I love his name, Beyond Ananda, right? Because so many gurus, Yogananda and Vivekananda, and he's beyond Ananda. And he has such a way of bringing us into bliss. And he'll talk about, relevant, important things, but he has a great way of, having a sense of humor about it. So he's hopefully coming in August. Yay, yay. Yeah, we're going to, August or October, so I'll let you know. But he says that we need heartland security versus homeland security. Because we find true security in the land of the heart. He says if we want world peace, we must let go of our attachments and truly live like nomads. That's where I nomad at you and you nomad at me. That way there'll surely be no madness on the planet. He brings such a lightheartedness to what can feel like a serious subject, right? The madness in this world, with everything that's happening, countries, at war, and wars against the perceived other, right? The perceived other, whether it's the immigrant or the LGBTQ community or the other religion or the other party or the other race. We have to practice no madness. I nomad at you, you nomad at me. No madness sets us free. I'm going to write a chant. In fact, I'll write that for when he comes. It should be reggae, I think. So we had a wonderful book study group. Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Patty. We've been having such a great time together and a big turnout and really talking over some matters of the heart, some really good discussions we're having. And we're talking about world peace and how it depends on individual peace. And we're really talking about how Rian Eisler's teaching of how we move from that domination system to partnership, to working in partnership with each other. And we were talking about how individual peace takes daily practice, right? And we get a lot of practice right in our own families and relationships. Anybody getting lots of practice? Something that I've come to see is we tend to outpicture our consciousness. Whatever, even the way we live. It's interesting. I shouldn't say this. Hopefully Chuck won't listen to this talk, but like he likes to ball up paper, and he has like balled up paper all over his room. And I tell him, I think it's you're outpicturing your consciousness. I mean, what is going on in there where you want to ball up paper, like that? But I feel like we do it collectively. We do it collectively too. And I feel like with what's happening in our country, we're out picturing some collective consciousness, and we have that's the play and form. We have consciousness, we express it, and then we either go, wow, that's fantastic, or we go, uh-oh, we need to work. We have some work to do here, right? So there's a great book I've been reading by the physicist Robert Lanza. I've been mentioning him because I love his work, Biocentrism. But he talks about consensus reality, and that when a lot of people believe and keep affirming a certain reality, it becomes a stronger reality. But Joe Dispenza talks about, well, maybe even just a small group of us, if we're really refined and we have strong intention, can change that consensus reality, right? And that's what we're doing here. That's what we do in all the work that we do to be aware that our thoughts create. Our thoughts are things, right? Our thoughts are prayers. They're creating. So, yes, we need world peace. I love Lynn's talk last week. But we also, what we can do is work on our own self, that our own propensity for little wars or little conflicts, and what our conditioning is creating, right? That's where we can give our attention. So good reflection questions to ask ourselves are, am I harboring any resentment? Any resentment at all? Am I holding on to any unforgiveness? Am I propagating any us versus them mentality? Because even if we're doing it unintentionally, those are the kind of energies that propagate war, little wars, right? Big ones or small ones. Swami Beyondananda says, I know great earth changes have been predicted for the future. So if you're looking to avoid earthquakes, my advice is simple. When you find a fault, just don't dwell on it. Speaking of earthquakes, I remember when I was touring, I think it was 2014. Yeah, I was going to sing at the Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Rosa. It's a big, large church there. And so I drove down there, and they put me up at a nearby Hampton Inn that was sort of halfway to Napa. And you know what happened, right? So, I did my thing, and I got in bed, and I was in bed, and I got up around 2 in the morning to use the bathroom, and I got back in bed, and the whole bed and the whole room started swaying. It wasn't subtle. It was like this. It was like this. And it was a newer hotel they had built for earthquakes, so they make them so that they sway. And I'm swaying, and I'm going, oh my goodness. It went on for 30 minutes. Things were falling off the counter and off the wall. And finally, when the swaying seemed to stop, I jumped out of bed, and all the power went out. So I grabbed my purse, and I grabbed my phone, and I ran out the door, and all these people were in the hall, like half-dressed. Some of them had clothes on. Some of them had variations on pajamas. I fortunately had pajamas that, well, good pajamas for that occasion. So we're all like, what do we do? We're in the hallway, and we're on the second floor. There's 4 stories. So we all decide, let's run down the stairs, right? Because the elevators weren't working. There was no power. So we run down the stairs, and we run out into the parking lot in our jammies. It's a big pajama party in the parking lot. And I get in the car, and I call Chuck, and again, it's about 2:30 in the morning, and I wake him up, and I said, there's an earthquake. And he gets online, he says, oh yeah, 6.0 in Napa. It's caused quite a lot of damage. It's I think it was the biggest earthquake in 25 years in that Bay Area. So he's, calming me down, and there's all these emergency vehicles driving by on 101. And so I sit in my car for about an hour, and then I see people starting to go back into the hotel. So I figure I can't sit out here all night. So I went back in, and I had put that thing in the door so I could get back in my room, fortunately. because still no power. So I got in bed. I didn't sleep a wink, but I got up at 6 and called the music director, and he said, "Oh yeah, service is on." And yeah, our house was shaking, and there's stuff broken all over. But yeah, we're gonna have service. So I drove down there, and right when I got there, the power came back on, and amazingly, 700 people showed up. I mean, they all came to service. And I decided to change one of my songs. I had this other song planned, but I sang instead, "I feel the earth move." And everybody loved it and sang along. It was a big hit. Oh, but that Sunday was really special, and it was unforgettable in part because we were all so happy to be alive, you know? Nobody died in that earthquake, but it did cause a lot of damage. But it shook us out of our comfort zone. And, you know, when things like that happen, like tragedies happen, like when 9/11 happened, it shakes people out of their ego and their, you know, kind of crusty little separate world. And people reach out and people connect more. And it shakes us open and our hearts open. And it's so beautiful. And I just wish we were like that. That was our factory setting. I wish we were always that open, and I think we can be. I think we can be. So one of the morals of that story is, as Swami says, when you find a fault, don't dwell on it. Dr. Martin Luther King said that peace isn't some distant ideal. It's a moment-by-moment choice. Yeah. So when we choose to forgive instead of retaliating, you know, or just, you know, closing our heart down, we contribute to peace. You know, we all make mistakes. We're all human. We're all fallible. If you've put me on a pedestal, please take me off. Because I'm as human as all of us. I mean, we're all human, and sometimes we have a moment we wish we said something differently, right? I definitely have those moments. Or, you know, sometimes someone says something to us and we feel a heart pinch, we feel a contraction. But that is right where our practice lies. That's right where our practice lies. That's where the spiritual rubber meets the road, right? And if we have a little mindfulness, we can watch what we do. And we can see our old habit or our old pattern of closing down. Like we might act the same, but like something in us closes down a little bit and shuts down the heart and feels unsafe. And you know, the body thinks, okay, I thought I could trust them, but now I don't. And there's just that little bit of withdrawing, right? And then that can grow into a story, right? The mind will start this story about, okay, how they really, you know, aren't our friend, or how we need to protect ourselves. And that story can go on for weeks, for months, for years even. So if we want to live in the love of our hearts with the most open heart possible, the most free heart possible, we have to find a way to become more mindful and watch when we have those moments that pinch our heart, and then we want to lean into not trusting, and then we want to tell a story of justify why we should close down. We have to see all of that, because that's really all the ego. It's all based on fear and protection. And we can see that, and with mindfulness we can go, actually, I don't have to close down. I don't have to close down. I can stay open. Doesn't mean we don't have healthy boundaries, but we can have healthy boundaries and keep our heart wide open to somebody. Oh, I have people in my life like that. There's a teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh that I always keep in mind. I love this teaching. It's a mantra. It's a really important mantra to remember. And the mantra is about, well, he says that all our suffering has its roots in our wrong perceptions. And so keep in mind the mantra, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Right? So we're telling a story about a friend or a family member that wronged us or let us down or isn't worthy of our love or forgiveness. We can ask ourselves, are you sure? Because maybe there's something we don't understand. You know, I love that quote, walk a mile in someone else's moccasins. I heard a joke about that. You know, you can, walk a mile in a man's shoes and then you're a mile away and you have his shoes. That's not the teaching, though. That's not what I'm trying to say. Don't do that. find our way back to the heart. Laughter is so helpful. I was at a church in Houston. In my years of touring, I was at this big church in Houston, Texas, to share music. And the minister told this incredibly powerful story that I never forgot. And I tell it now and then. I may have told it once. I'm not sure here, but it's a powerful teaching story. So would you like to hear it? It's in poem form, and it's about being humbled by realizing our perceptions could be erroneous, and it's called The Cookie Thief by Valerie Cox. The Cookie Thief. A woman was waiting at an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shop, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her, as bold as he could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes went by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I would blacken his eye. With each cookie he took one too. When only one was left, she wondered what he would do. With a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other, and she snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She had never known when she'd been so galled and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat. Then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached in her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned in despair. The others were his, and he tried to share. Too late to apologize. She realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. Aww, such a great example of using that wonderful mantra, are you sure? I love that story. Such a good story. Have you ever had that happen? Where you were wrong? Is it possible? Pema Chodron, she has a little book I love called Practicing Peace in Times of War, and she explores the origins of aggression and hatred in war. And she says the only place we can really work on regularly is our own heart and mind. She said war and peace begin in the hearts of individuals. And she talks a lot about non-attachment being the key to freedom. And of course, non-attachment is not just to material things. It's especially in reference to our views, right? Our perceptions. And also our resentments, right? And our ideas about others. So what helps is, through meditation, Lynn talked about that last week, and through self-reflection practice, we become more mindful of our attachments, right? And our views, our attachment to views. When it's so good to start noticing the ego, right? Michael Singer talks about that in his book, that voice inside your head that has an opinion about everything and has to share it. And that we learn to watch that. And mindfulness means being aware. So we're aware of what's happening. And we ask ourselves, it's good to ask, are you sure, right? Because that energy of are you sure, that can really bring us from this, 10-inch journey from the head to the heart, right? It can really bring us back to the heart. I've always thought, the heart wants to be close and the mind wants to be right, The heart wants to be close, the mind wants to be right. So Pema, in her book, there's a cartoon of these three fish swimming around a hook, right? And the one fish is a little wiser, and the one fish says, the secret is non-attachment. The secret is not to bite the hook, not to get attached, not to get hooked by the ego's need, by that old conditioning, right? In Tibetan, they have a word called Shenpa. Shenpa means not only non-attachment, but non-attachment or being hooked. And, you know, Shenpa is like this visceral feeling of being triggered by something that leads to habitual reactions and potential suffering. So we can grow in our ability to notice where our perception and our views shut down our heart, right? Notice when we're creating othering, and also why we're creating it. You know, that's what self-reflection is all about. You know, it's so important to become self-reflective and really get to the core of why am I feeling this way. So often it's fear. We don't feel safe, right? So we make up this story. But once we're aware, we can change. We can resolve to never shut down and take care of the feelings of fear or distrust or hurt, so we can live open to the greatest amount of love that's possible in this life. Years ago, I should put this in a song, I received this message that in the eyes of God, beauty is measured by the size of the heart. In the eyes of God, beauty is measured by the size of the heart. So I leave you with that. So may our hearts grow. May they be big. May we have to walk around like this and hold all this immensity of love that's in our heart. And it's really infinite, our capacity for love. So may we grow in our ability to stay in love. Never fall out of love. Never fall out of love with ourselves, with our life, with God, and with each other. Thank you all. Love you all.